With initial roster cuts in the books, the attention now shifts to the NFL Waiver Wire. My name is Harrison Graham. Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. Waiver claims are due at 12 Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday. So whether you're watching this on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, that's when it's due. And will the Bears target anyone? We'll find out on Wednesday once those claims come in. But the waiver claim order is based on the draft order from last year. No, the Bears don't sit number one just because they had the number one pick. It's based on who would have had the pick originally. But Bears sitting at 9, pretty good position for a pretty good roster to maybe add a player or two at a key position if they look to do that. I don't think Poles will be as active on the waiver wire market as he has been the last couple of years, especially 2 years ago. When you have a better team, you're willing to not lose as many of your current guys, but I could see a couple of waiver claims getting put out there, and we'll see if the Bears do that. We'll take a look at some of those players in a second. My biggest questions for this roster right now is, one, punt returner. I think they're going to roll with DeAndre Carter, and historically he's been good there, so I feel mostly good about that, but I do wonder if they'll at least scour a couple of returner options. Defensive tackle, that's certainly one. You've only got 4 guys right now, and Zach Pickens is banged up. Now, you could say 5 guys if you count DeMarcus Walker, who kicks in there some. So we'll see if they add a piece there. And then long snapper. We'll talk more about long snapper later, but Patrick Scales is going to revert to IR tomorrow after claims come in. So that is certainly an area where they're going to have to add a player. What do you guys think? What is the Bears' biggest weakness on this roster right now? If you had to pick a position or a player or whatever the case may be, you let me know. Biggest weakness on the Bears roster right now. Speaking of returner, how about Jalen Darden, who has a pretty good history of returning punts? Didn't do it a ton last year. He was kind of off and on a couple of different rosters, but had a bunch of returns in his first couple of years in the NFL. I think 30-plus in 2 straight seasons with a pretty good average. Reliable hands for the most part as well. Again, DeAndre Carter has a longer history, so I would expect them to keep Carter in that role, but Darden's younger. Maybe he gives you a little bit more juice. The one thing is he hasn't done hardly anything offensively, whereas at least Carter a few years ago had a 500-yard season. I don't think he'll contribute a ton on the offense, but he's done a little bit more in his career, but did want to mention him as an option. You get to another returner who's done a little more at receiver, although he's mostly been a bust, Dwayne Eskridge, who has never returned a punt in a real game, but did have a punt return touchdown in the preseason, does have a history as a kick returner as well, so he could be a guy you put opposite of Velus Jones on kick return if you put 2 guys back there. As a second-round pick, he did not pan out, but did want to mention him here. Has showed some juice as a punt returner in the preseason. Before you ask, no, we're not talking about Kadarius Toney. I just don't think Ryan Poles is going to bring him into this locker room. He's a bit of a wild card. If you took the off-the-field stuff out of it, I'd consider it, but don't think that's really an option right now. Next up, more of a positional player, not necessarily a return specialist. Siaki Ika, the defensive tackle for the Browns. We talked about him on a video earlier on Tuesday, and let's just call a spade a spade. He was terrible as a rookie last year. But he's only been in the league for a year and change, and he was a 3rd-round pick last year. Now, I get it. It speaks volumes that the Browns are moving on this quickly from a day 2 pick. Like, that really goes to show he hasn't been that good. But maybe with the second chance, he can develop into someone that the Bears can get contributions out of. Would I bank on that? No. Would I for sure put a claim in for him? I'd have to think about it. I'd have to really go back to my scouting if I was on Ryan Poles' staff and say, hey, we get last year was a disaster, but based on his college tape, as you see how bad the PFF grades were a year ago, could we turn him into something? Because you think about this roster right now, after Andrew Billings, you don't really have a true nose tackle. Ika at 335, 340 would fit the bill of that, and in theory should be a decent run stopper, but I'm not sure the Bears will do it. In fact, I think one of the teams in top 8 in the waiver order probably will anyway, just because, I don't know, if you're a team like New England or Carolina not expected to contend, why not take a swing at a 3rd-round pick from last year? But I do wonder if the Bears will consider this here for a guy who at least should have some talent. Couple more to go, and then we'll take a look at some vested vets that could sign anywhere, anytime that I would have some interest in. But first, got to tell you a little bit more about our sponsor. That is Game Time. and you want to get out to the ballpark for this playoff push for the Cubs, you want to go check out the White Sox for really cheap tickets, how about the Bears week 1 against the Tennessee Titans and get the lowest prices guaranteed? That's what Game Time's going to offer you. So go to your app store, search Game Time, download the app today, create an account, and use promo code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase only. Terms apply. Game Time has a lot of benefits. They're going to help you filter through the thousands of tickets for your favorite teams because you click on any event, there's thousands of tickets available. They're going to show you kind of the best ones available. They'll flash super deals, which is kind of the best bang for your buck. Not necessarily the cheapest ticket in the stadium, but the best value. Like maybe you get a Section 200 level ticket that's really high quality that's gone down $25 for a limited time only or something like that. So they're looking to show you the best possible options. And last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. What does that mean? Well, day before event, day of, sometimes prices drop, and Game Time is going to get you that best price available. So check them out today. Download the app, use code ChatSports, get those last minute tickets for the lowest price guaranteed. That code ChatSports, $20 off your first purchase only. Terms apply. And guess what? What time is it? Yeah, it's game time, baby. Football's back. All right, couple more. Ricky Stromberg, the center who played college ball at Arkansas, was a third-round pick last year. Kind of like Ika, 1 year and change in, new regime in Washington. That is a difference here. So this one's a little less surprising because when you see regime changes, these things happen. Did not work out in Washington. I liked him coming out. Good athletic profile. He can move. But for whatever reason, he did not hit with the Commanders. Now, I think this would be one of those where if you're bringing him in, then you're cutting Doug Kramer, right, who had a really good preseason. And I think right now you could argue Kramer's the better player. I think Stromberg's ceiling is better. I think he probably, in theory, if he fit what you're trying to do better, but maybe you just go with what you know. I would have some interest, but I'm not, dying one way or the other. How about Lewis Cine, the safety with the Vikings, who just was a flat-out bust? First-round pick a couple of years ago. Both him and Andrew Booth, top 50 picks, now off Minnesota. That's really poor drafting by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. But do you take a swing if you're the Bears? I mean, first-round guy. You only kept 4 safeties on your initial 53. You could probably make room for him and cut one of those 6 edge rushers or 5 running backs that you have. You could certainly decide to go that route if you think there's developmental traits still there. I think you'd have to see if he can play special teams for you. If not, I probably wouldn't pick him up. But the guy went first round 2 years ago. Is he really this bad? I don't get that one whatsoever. But that being said, Brian Flores clearly signed off on this, and he's a pretty good defensive mind, so something to consider. All right, let's shift from the waiver wire to veteran cuts that were made. And these guys can sign right away, which, by the way, Tim Patrick signed with the Lions. That one's already off the board. He's going to join their practice squad and eventually get elevated, it sounds like. Noah Brown with the Texans. Noah Brown has spent several years in the NFL with Dallas and Houston. Last year had almost 600 yards. I get it. You've got a really good trio at receiver, but Brown has played some H-back in the NFL in the past. He can do some different things. Like, he's a better pure receiver than DeAndre Carter, no doubt. Now, Tyler Scott has more speed, more juice, but Brown's more proven than him. Do you bring him in as like your 4-5 receiver and Carter's your 6? You just go 6 there? I could certainly see that, so I'm keeping an eye on him. Cameron Latu, who did not look good early in San Francisco, I thought he had a pretty decent camp in preseason, flashed in one of the games in particular. Decent blocker, okay receiving tight end. They cut Brendan Bates, who I thought they would consider keeping a 4th tight end. I do wonder if they will scour the market for a 4th tight end. If they do, maybe Latu's a guy they would consider. And then Lyle Collins, who I get it, his career has kind of fallen off a cliff. He's had injuries, but at one point, this was a Pro Bowl offensive tackle who could also play guard. Do you take a swing here on a vet minimum? Maybe you throw him on your practice squad, see if you can ramp him up and give you some depth. Remember, Larry Borum's on short-term IR. Right now, your swing tackle is probably Matt Pryor, who had a solid preseason, but I thought he was better at guard than tackle. Is Karan Amagaji ready to step in at tackle if there's an injury? That's a question mark. So I think Lyle Collins, at least bringing in for a workout, could be worth kicking the tires on here. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk a little long snapper in a second, but if you want my authentic takes reaction to all the news and rumors out there. That's what we do here on this channel. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers here on Bears Now. So if you want to join the movement, hit that subscribe button. All right, Brad Biggs had this note, and my eyes are really failing me right now. Okay, I can read it here. 3 long snappers to consider. Scott Daly, 42 games with the Lions over the last 3 years. Zach, who's that? Triner, 75 games with the Bucks. And then Matt Overton, who he mentions, they signed when Patrick Scales was banged up back in January, could be an option. And the reason we're talking about this is because tomorrow, once waivers clear, Patrick Scales is going to go to short-term IR. They couldn't do it initially because they used those 2 spots with the new rules on Larry Borom and Jacob Martin. But now Scales will revert to IR, and Blasingame is going to return to take his spot. That's what's being reported. But you're still going to have to find a long snapper. Even if it's someone on the practice squad to elevate, eventually one's probably going to have to be on your 53 because Scales is going to miss a minimum of 4 games. And I think Biggs or Leisure had the report that he could be out till late October. So they're going to have to find an option here. They cut Cameron Lyons, so I don't think they liked what he was doing. He had some high snaps that Torrey Taylor had to corral when holding kicks, so I think they're going to go in a different direction. But Scales is going to go on IR. Blasingame's going to return, but they're going to have to figure out who their long snapper is in the short term, so that's something to keep an eye on. Are you guys worried about the long snapper situation? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I don't think worried's the right word, but you want to get someone in here where when you're watching the game as a fan, you're not worried about the long snapper, right? Like, that's the last thing a football fan wants to be thinking about. Oh, God, I hope this guy snaps the ball properly on these field goals and punts. Like, that should be automatic. There's some guys Biggs mentioned with experience that they should be able to bring in here and plug and play. But until they do, they need to, that's something to monitor. And he said he would expect some kind of an open tryout in the next 2 days, so keep an eye on that. All right, that's going to do it for Chicago Bears Now. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, X at HGrahamNFL. You can find more of my Bears takes over there. My name is Harrison Graham. See you guys soon. Peace.